Committee Member Castillo-White?
Here.
Chair Kester?
Here.
Committee Member Harrington?
Here.
Committee Member Minkoff? Committee Member Long?
Here.
Committee Member Rizzo?
Here.
Committee Member Terrell?
Here.
Committee Member Barney?
Here.
Vice Chair Stephenson?
Here.
Committee Member Knight?
Present.
And Committee Member Sanchez?
Here.
All right, so with that, I would ask everyone to rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay, and with that, we'll go to public comment on non-agenda items. We have, let's see, I guess we'll start on Zoom. If there is any member of the public that wants to bring something in front of the Citizens Advisory Committee for public comment, feel free to unmute yourself and state your name and city residence for the record. Hearing none, I'll go to the room. We have public comment, Tammy?
Do you want me to save it for, are you taking up legislative updates tonight?
Yeah, I mean, if we can now or later, I guess it doesn't really matter.
Whatever's your preference.
Yeah, since we have that, I have that on the agenda, so we might as well wait until then, if that is your topic of discussion.
Sure.
All right, we'll do that. All right, so close public comment. And agenda item 3, review and approval of the December meeting minutes. Did everybody get a chance to review those? And are there any questions, comments, or changes required? I know there was a couple of minor typographical changes that Paul Wilcox sent in via email.
Yep.
I think the only one would be the usual one where we're all commissioners instead of
Yeah, that.
members. I don't know.
Still using the old one, yeah. Yeah, so I've mentioned before that about that, so that's just using a different template or getting them back and forth, so I'll just let her know again.
And I forgot what to say about the name Arnett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so his two words, I'll just note them right now. And I can't remember the actual page, but Sanchez commented that the county sheriff rehired an equity manager. Manager was misspelled. And then also Arnett asked, it's Barnett. Which I did rewatch it, and to be fair, it was hard to hear that. And she asked me, she did ask me what was his name, I couldn't remember afterwards, so I couldn't remember if it was Arnett or Barnett, so I told her just go with Arnett and that it will be corrected, I'm sure. So if we knew that one was coming.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Sorry, quick question. Did you say that it was stated that the sheriff's office has rehired or is pending rehire?
Has rehired.
Oh,
Commented that the county sheriff rehired the equity manager.
okay.
Does say,
That was incorrect. They have not rehired the position.
if I may, it says Sanchez commented that if the county sheriff retires.
There you go, thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's,
Yeah, so, yeah, it was, anyway, the minutes reflect what was said at the meeting, I guess is the point.
Perfect.
So, any other comments, corrections? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I motion Shelby Staffens, then I motion that we accept the December 3rd, 2025 Citizen Advisory Committee meeting minutes as amended.
I second Victoria Rizzo.
We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, no, Chris Martin opposed. And the motion carries. All right, so agenda item 4, discussion items for tonight's meeting. The first one that I had on the list is at the December meeting. We had a member of the public coming in talking about the concerns about the apparent the apparent lack of communication and coordination between the county and the city as it relates to road maintenance and associated projects. And my question to this group for discussion is, do we want to take that item as a committee to City Council for visibility purposes? Chris?
I guess right off the bat, I do feel that's appropriate since our committee doesn't have the authority to do anything about that in and of itself, and since the council is kind of the government of the city, I think they'd be the appropriate body to discuss and take action if they deem it necessary.
That was my thought as well. Yeah.
I would suggest that Mr. Barnett would go to City Council to best articulate his concerns and give the examples so he can best explain what his concern is. And bring it forward rather than us interpret it and try to figure out what is the process, what they may be able to offer answers to the questions that he also had. That's my thought.
Any other thoughts? And my personal thought is, as we went through our whole "what are we doing here" effort a year or two ago, the thing that started that whole discussion was the idea of citizens coming in and can we take that, should we take that to council? My personal thought is this is a prime example of something that we can and maybe should do. Diane's point, I think, is well taken, that the concern, the person who originally brought the concern to us should be encouraged to go to council themselves. But I think it is still part of our purview, since it was brought to us, to at least raise the topic for visibility to City Council. And in doing so, that might encourage the gentleman who came in front of us, as well as others with similar concerns, to do the same.
Do we have an established procedure for how we navigate these? For example, I think it's a great point that I think we should definitely ensure that person, whoever comes to us, is that their full concerns are able to be, moved forward. But I think, as I'm remembering that situation last month, I don't think we had the procedural process in place for us to be able to ensure that we had accurate clarification on what that person's concerns were, ability for us to be able to tell them what next steps would be, how we follow up with them, ask them if they would like to present personally, if they would like for us to present on their behalf. So I think what would be a very important first step for us is for us to make sure that we have an established procedure for us to ensure when people come to us, that one, we ensure that we have clarification and we ensure that the person feels comfortable that we understand their concern, and then be able to have contact information. I mean, I assume many of you in this room knew that person personally, but I think it's important that if someone does come that we don't personally know, that we ensure that they have contact information, a way in which they'd like to be followed up with in terms of where we go with afterwards, so that we can ensure that there's a process in place for us, so that we can equitably raise concerns to the right entities and make sure that we can then provide them the option to say, you represent on behalf of me, or I would like to represent on behalf of myself, or
Well,
Yeah, I appreciate that, and continuing upon that thought, I mean, taking this one particular subject out of it and getting more like procedural, like what do we do when this happens? And is there some sort of like flow chart, sort of thing? And if somebody's like, if somebody comes in and it's just like this crazy off the wall thing that we're all like, yeah, that's a little wild, do we really wanna go through that and everything that somebody brings to us we do? Or is there some sort of middle ground where like, okay, this elevates to like, yeah, this is actually a topic that this group is concerned about, therefore we want to take the action to then make that recommendation? But I do think the baseline is, what Diane said, is just, hey, no matter what, you go, thank you for bringing it here, this is your definite next step. But I think to that question is, what do we do? Is everything that comes before this group, are we tasked and wanting to do everything? Or does that hit a certain vote of like, yes, we think it's important enough, and then at that point, if it is important enough to move forward, what does that look like with that person's involvement? And us saying that this is our interpretation of the problem, but the problem is not what this person is saying, right?
Thanks for that, as well.
oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Twyla.
Oh yeah. I just wanted to also bring up, I like the idea of people being able to come to us. I think there is a power differential when you're just talking to your neighbor versus going to a city council. And so people may be more open to share. And then I like the idea of, after they have shared, asking what I think I'm hearing you guys say also is clarifying, is this something just to inform us, or would you like us to escalate this on your behalf? Or for us to just keep this as a topic to discuss with the CAC in the future. So maybe giving a few avenues of how that could go. But also just providing that if they want us to speak on their behalf, because they perhaps don't feel comfortable speaking in front of the council, offering that also.
Shelley.
I just was gonna say the one point is that sometimes I think we didn't really know who at staff was doing stuff, what the communication level. So sometimes we can't answer and respond right away without knowing. Maybe there's been a ton of communication with staff and maybe Dakota didn't actually know that part. So I think we also have to understand, like, because we knew this was a communication issue, we need to understand what communication actually already happens with staff, so.
I concur. That's what I was going to say too. Dakota might have a lot of the answers to that, but that might be part of the process. Like you said, we go first. Is your official position director, or what is it for this?
For this, I'm the liaison.
Liaison.
Staff
So
liaison.
talk to our staff liaison and then get more information. And it might be something, hey, this is already on the books. There's already a process, but still we would know how to, if does the process need to be improved, is, just whatever we do for the line items. And also, the reason also that I like that the person coming here also go to council, because the passion, the concern, the nuances of what they have to say, I think things get lost in translation. And anything that's a concern to the citizen, I believe a lot of things don't get to council. They don't get to council. And I plead with people to, 5 minutes, you get to be first, you get to speak and go out and just, but it's very meaningful, and then you're educating them, and then it's in their memory banks to connect dots and to use this to get more informed and to learn to be better, to better be council people.
I don't remember, did we tell him he should go to council?
I don't believe, my recollection is that it was not specifically mentioned.
Our main job is to engage with the community, and by engaging with them, telling them, okay, this is a concern that you have, you can go to these meetings. So many people don't know that meetings exist. And it's really cool that he came to ours, but that particular topic is a tough one and not much I don't think the city can do anything about it. That doesn't mean that he doesn't deserve to be heard.
Right. Woodrow?
Thank you, it's Woodrow Troutdale. I want to chime in on what Diane was saying earlier. When we have someone from the citizenry come in and speak to this committee or any committee, I want to make sure that we can instill within them some confidence that they can take this issue to larger council offices, and that on our behalf, we can be supportive and encouraging. And at the same time, we're looking at this member of our township, our citizenry. Is this somebody we can invite to some other committee that we could have them be engaged with? So the purpose of them attending our meeting and then attending a council meeting is going to have multiple purposes. One, we want to help them get better at their speaking and feel confident so they can take this in front of the larger council. And also we're looking for people that really can help our community and gives us a chance to, see them a couple more times. So again, I want to emphasize that I'm totally supportive of what Diane was saying, and sorry I couldn't be there in person.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I absolutely agree, and I think it would be a great opportunity for us to create in this process prompts and reminders for us, right? When we hear from somebody to remember that, yes, our goal is to empower them and educate them. And at certain times, depending, advocate on their behalf, but only when it's driven from them and is asked from them. And so I think, because I'll be very honest, like after that gentleman left, we had an engaging conversation. Who can you go to? What are the avenues for that? But he was out of the room, right? And so it was a lost opportunity for us to engage that person, empower that person, educate that person, right? And to follow up with next steps. And what's really important, I think, of this committee is for us to do really thorough and proper follow-up as well. This was our discussion, this is what we learned, this is what Dakota can offer, this is what, other avenues are to offer, and making sure that, then we can show our community members that whatever they say here, we do have a follow-up process, whether or not it's like we have no, that we don't have any power in there, but this is where you could go. But we can show that to everyone. So I think creating a process, asking people to follow up communication, how they would like to be followed up with. Here's your avenue, stay in the room if possible for the conversation. If not, how can we report out to you? Our conversations would be really important for us.
I agree, that could be part of the process, and we could also ask Dakota, is there time to do this? Do you want to put it at the end? Is this appropriate for having this conversation at the next meeting, so that the person can come back and then we could have a meaningful conversation about it? But like you said, it's like that could be the line item, part of the line item, and how we proceed and genuinely engage with those that have a process and engage with them meaningfully.
I know that for some committees, the sign-in sheet is attached to the minutes, and it has not been lately for ours. Do we have, can we find out what contact info we have for the gentleman? If we have an email address that we possibly reach back out and give some next steps, and some thoughts as far as taking the concerns in public comment from the city council?
Typically, when folks sign in, then we add it, but I don't believe he signed in.
Okay.
So we don't have.
We probably don't have contact.
I have got the
Okay.
I actually talked to him a half an hour ago. He called me randomly for something, so.
So Chris,
Sorry about that.
no, that's fine, it's,
Let's see. So I guess the couple of thoughts I had is, I guess one of the conflicts I kind of have is that I don't think it's wrong at all for Sam to go and present to the council himself, but I do like the idea of there being that option because with us being a citizens focused committee, I think it's important for us to be able to like help the citizens in certain situations such as this. The other thing I was going to say is it might be beneficial to do some research in our meetings because I confess I'm not remembering any details that are very helpful, but I remember a while back in one of our meetings we were having discussions about communicating with the council because of some issue and someone was saying that it was like a one-way street, but we were talking about wanting to change that, so there might be something helpful there since we were getting into protocols. And as far as communicating with Sam, it sounds like Will said he has his contact info, and I guess I just thought it was worth mentioning that Sam did used to be on this committee.
it's good. Victoria?
Jumping ahead one, but I was thinking that would make a procedure for citizens to do this. Maybe make a procedure for how we'll follow up and who we refer them to, and then make sure we keep a record of what we did.
So my other thought is while I wholeheartedly agree with everybody, the various people who say that we need to encourage the individual to be engaged all the way through the process and advocate for themselves. One thing I want to make sure, and again, this is probably just mostly my opinion, but we as a committee, as part of our job as being kind of the liaison between the citizenry and the rest of staff and city council, we need to be willing to be the bullhorn, be the cheerleaders itself, rather than just encouraging them to be engaged themselves. I mean, we can take that baton and run with it. We don't necessarily, I agree with the sentiment that we want clarification, we want the full picture, we don't want to go off half-cocked, so to speak. But I think even without explicit direction from the individual, if we as a committee, if we as a group of Troutdale citizens believe that the subject that has been brought in front of us is of sufficient weight and importance to at least notify city council that this is a topic that is being discussed, I don't think we necessarily need to hesitate to do that. And I appreciate the thoughts around process and having repeated processes and such, but I don't want things to get bogged down by process necessarily when we can sooner rather than later raise the visibility to city council. But
Yeah, a few different things there. One, for people that come beyond us or in the future of us, if we have some sort of groundwork that's like, hey, here's like kind of our check sheet. This is what we've been doing in the past. At least there's something there that we can refer back to. Number two, I do agree that there possibly should be some sort of level of like, oh yes, this is a topic that we all agree by simple vote or whatever, that it should be handled and expressed further. Because again, if somebody's like, we should change all of our stop signs to green, and they're like, okay, this is really important to me. All right, guys, should we take this to council or not? You know, like things like that. Like, where is that threshold? Do we say yes or no? I'm not saying it won't, but just looking for all possibilities. And then the third one would be just making sure that we are explicitly clear that we are going to take this action, but we are not taking your agency. Like, you need to continue to advocate for yourself, and this is not like handing it over to us isn't going to solve this problem. Like, we're just going to take the next step, and here's our clearly defined steps that we're going to take. Now that you brought this to us, but it is still up to you to 100% advocate for yourself in this situation.
Yes, I absolutely I agree with all of this, and I think ensuring a process will allow us to act and or, just like you're saying, we can feel strongly as a committee that we need to move this forward and also encourage, educate that citizen and our community member to have agency and move forward as well. So I feel like a process will help us ensure that we do push ourselves to follow up, push ourselves to educate in the moment, push ourselves to empower always, and also provide us with the requirement to take the time to evaluate the situation and categorize whether or not we need to encourage that person to go on their own behalf, or that it's something that we need to elevate on our own. But it will actually push us and lay the foundation for future committees to make sure that they're checking, getting contact information, asking them how they want to be followed up, giving them education, letting them know where they can go, and also giving us space in our time to be able to dialogue and figure out what our next steps are other ways. Something to just like a checklist to make sure that it's keeping us, because again, we want to ensure that we are all human beings and we are all subject to implicit bias. We want to make sure that we treat everyone's concerns with a checklist and not just something that we resonate with personally or that we resonate because we know the person. So we want to lay that foundation.
Chris?
I guess I just had something I kind of wanted to throw out there, because the other thing I was thinking about is, in everything we've been discussing, we've been very focused on, like, Sam and that kind of thing, but I think it's worth considering that the issues that he had is something that is not just specific to him, it's like a citywide concern as well as affecting anybody else who ever drives through here on any given day.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the reasons why I specifically wanted to bring this particular bit of public comment up, is because the potential impact, it does go well beyond the one individual. This is not just a matter of individual advocacy. This is something that could very easily be perceived as something of significant citywide importance.
I believe, I'm proposing we put this possibly for discussion item 4B, create the CAC to-do list for 2026, that we create a process, whether, whatever it be, like vet through Dakota, and then which committee is the best to address, you know what I mean? There might be an issue for somebody else, but just if we all come together, if we include this on 4B, and then we individually work on all the key important things, the components that we have all mentioned, and bring that to the table and do this at a future agenda item.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. In the meantime, Will,
This specific topic, right?
for this specific topic, for 4A, would you be willing to reach out and basically at least give the encouragement to go to council as he is able, and if not, if he's either unable or unwilling, I doubt he's either of those. Then you can come back to us, and then we can do all of the other legwork as our eventual process will define, and take it and potentially take it to council ourselves.
So to clarify, I'll reach out, talk to him again, ask if he's comfortable taking that information to city council, and if he would also like to come back and clarify some ideas with us so that then we can potentially present the council if he is unwilling or unable?
Or both, honestly, because something that of potential importance like this, it would offer some weight, in my opinion, to have both the individual and us as a committee bringing it up to council.
I think from past actions that CAC has done before, we needed all the information and then we decided, we voted whether we thought this was something we wanted to take on.
Right.
Okay? It doesn't mean that just because they come, like, well, that's why we need the process.
Yeah.
Because then we go vet, does he already have the answers? Does staff already have the answers? Is this something that we don't need to, start from scratch?
I'm definitely not suggesting we
Okay.
take everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even with this, I'm thinking that, in the process, we have to include, sounds like an okay, we're just advocating like, hey, this is of concern to you. We think the council should hear your concern. I think we could all possibly agree on that. But for anything else, like how much further we go, I would like to have a process in place and then a vote so that just everybody that comes in, we're not just going to take every issue on as advocates automatically because somebody comes before us.
Agreed. Any other thoughts?
Hi, it's Woodrow. Along those lines, if and maybe not as an advocate of the issue, right? But maybe as an advocate of the person that has the issue. And then and maybe what we can look at later down the line is is it a neighborhood? Did it start in a neighborhood? So would one of us or a group of us be assigned to different neighborhoods so we can know where to direct them to? Or if the issue is with a department, again, would we split up this committee into representative departments so that if something comes in from this neighborhood about this department, we can recommend these committee members to assist them? So just throwing it out there. We still got a lot more discussion to do.
Yeah, something to think about, certainly. All right. Any other thoughts?
I'll reach out.
All right. Thank you, Will. With that, we can kind of move on to 4D, our to-do list. And top of that to-do list is going to be this this kind of feedback checklist, feedback process for kind of how we as a committee want to handle, process issues that are brought in front of us during public comment. So I think the idea, the kind of path forward on that particular item that Diane was talking about is probably a good one. If over the course of the next month, if people kind of pencil out their ideas, the check boxes, the steps that they think are important for that process. Certainly things like making sure we have contact information, taking a vote at the end, that we're taking things of sufficient weight and measure, things to make sure that we're evaluating issues on an even keel, so to speak. I guess I would ask people as they are wont to kind of put that checklist together, and then as a discussion item for February, we'll have that on the agenda, and we can put that together. So as the rest of 4B, and when I put this on the agenda, it was intended to be kind of open-ended, and I'll put it as open-ended as I can. what do y'all want to do this year? What should we, what do you want to accomplish as the CAC in 2026? I mean, barring whatever deep and weighty subjects that Dakota brings in front of us, what should our goals, what should our tasks as a committee look like? Tiffany?
I would like to see more, and I know that Erica brought up the bulletin boards in town, and I've asked about it pretty much every meeting. I'd like to see more of those in our city. I know that there's supposed to be 2 more, and they're supposed to go up somewhere. And once they are up, utilizing them. An example of this would be, I actually did this week, and because the lock is broken on the one that was put up at Sunrise Park, I picked up a piece of, I think it was a tomato plant marker, and I put it in the bottom because that keeps the door shut, because it's enough thickness to keep the door shut, so it's not swinging open in the wind. And because I knew it was open and I didn't have to seek out getting a key or taking a flyer, I put a flyer up about game night. I put a flyer up. I actually went in and I typed out all the meetings that are in January. And then I made a red arrow and I wrote this week. And I actually pointed at the meetings that are this week. Because nobody, I think a fair amount of our community don't know these meetings exist. And that's one of the reasons why I joined this committee, is to talk to our community and get more people to come and voice their opinions and know that they actually have a voice and they can be heard. And so I would like to see us facilitating that happening, pushing more toward it, and then the reason why I don't live in Sandy Palisades, and I know that there's one up in Sandy Palisades. So if somebody on the committee lives close to Sandy Palisades, maybe they facilitate getting a key or making sure things are updated in those bulletin boards, because people use our parks, they walk around, they can read these things. Sunrise Park is utilized a ton. And I'm kind of excited to see if it makes a difference. I put a clipping from the newspaper, because I know on the back of the Champion, it lists everything happening for the, I think is it 3 months that the Champion is? I want to say it's 3 months.
Yeah,
So it lists all the meetings for the 3 months. And I did put on the bottom of it, meetings are subject to cancellation and to check online, because sometimes they get canceled at the last minute. But that's a goal of mine this year, as being part of this group, is to make sure our community knows what's going on in our community. And so I've kind of taken on Sunrise Park because I can get to it right now. But as this committee, we're supposed to be engaging with our community, so I would love to see us be in charge of making sure those are updated when they go up, and the current ones that we have are updated. I don't know if any of you guys, do any of you live in the Sandy Palisades neighborhood? Nobody? I mean, I'd be willing to do it for that one too, but I don't have access to that one. And those are the only 2 that are up, is Sunrise Park and Sandy Palisades. Do you know anything about more coming? Erica mentioned them.
I know we talked about it that one time, and it hasn't been brought back to my attention, so I'm not sure, maybe it's a funding thing, we're waiting
It'd be great to have one along the trail down, the new trail.
So I know we discussed that, like, hey, we want to put up a couple more, where I know we had that discussion here. I know Eric took that back. I'm not sure if it was shot down or like due to funding, or if it was just like, hey, on the back burner, or oh yeah, we're still working towards that. I haven't heard anything, but I have it written down in my notes right here to just check with Erica about that, and that way I can at least have a confirmed, like, did it get shut down? Are we moving forward? Are we waiting until the next fiscal year to move forward with it? So.
And when those boards are, I guess, properly locked as they're supposed to be.
I think they get analyzed. I honestly, I would love to see it open so people can hang things on there.
Yeah, but if they are locked, as it seemed like that seemed to be what it was.
The 2 that we have currently.
Yeah, is that access control, is that on Jonah's plate, or?
I believe those are parks.
Okay.
Parks controlled, so they have the keys and stuff for that.
So that's back on your plate.
Yeah. That's right. And then there was one other thing, I would really like to get the answer pinned down to incentivizing our community to do the, like, what kind of incentive is, what's the word I'm looking for? Incentivization we can give the community to complete things when we have surveys. We talked about it last year and it got kiboshed because of the lawyer, like, you know, you had money from a grant, but we weren't, how can we use this money? Like, how do we get people to engage with us? Well, you say, fill this out, and at the end you have a chance to do something. I would like to figure out how and what we can do to incentivize our community to engage with us this year. Because I know it was like, oh, we have to ask the lawyer, but we never got an answer on that either. Like how and when can we incentivize our community to engage?
Last I heard, so I did double check after our last meeting, is that it's, we can't do anything that would be monetary gift type incentivization.
Incentivization? I don't know.
I don't know, maybe I'm getting it.
So,
But yeah, that we can't do that.
We can't get prizes.
Yeah.
Yes, point of, clarification on that. The city cannot, as in like the CAC cannot, but if we had a private public partnership with somebody down here that wanted to offer something, could they donate sort of thing? And then it's like a pass-through, you see what I'm getting at?
I see what you're
We
getting
can't
at.
go and buy a whatever hair salon thing, but if the hair salon wanted to offer and be in the champion as advertising that they're part of this, like, is that something, an angle that we could go for?
I think that's okay. Again, I think that's something we have to go back and double check with the.
Yeah, so it's like, it's not a yes or no question, Tiffany, like I never have a yes or no, it's like, okay, well, this is the law, what are the ways that we can figure out how to get it done?
I think donations are obviously very much okay. We do donations and like we give, for example, like at Windy Wonderland, you know, we give, like we did a stocking, we used to give bugs, and that was for events, rather than like incentivizing to like participate. Necessarily, that's more for kids, because I think more adults do it than the kids. So I think that's where it kind of gets my understand what you're saying, Tiffany. So I know that like we can't go out and purchase things to incentivize, but I'm not sure if it's donated, if that is you know, quote unquote loophole, if that's okay. Because I'm not sure, because the reason why I'm saying I'm not sure is because to me that makes perfect sense. They donated it, cool, but does that then consider preferential treatment to a business that has the ability to donate? And that's where why we need to check with the lawyer. So I'm not sure if it's a, no, we can't do that for that exact reason, is, well, this one company's doing well, or this business is doing well, they have the opportunity to donate X number of, say, gift cards or things like that, where this other one isn't, so now they're getting more business in the grand scheme, where this other one's not, so then as a city, if it's a city sanctioned, aka like a committee, or anything like that, city-sanctioned entity, that could look bad. Again, these are questions that we need to get the nitty-gritty on from the lawyer of like the workaround, if you will.
Okay, this is something we talked about a long time ago. I've written down some ideas about it. So we've talked about a town hall a long time ago. And so I think we could do some around-the-loop incentivization, that word, okay? But anyway, town hall, all the committees are in attendance. They all have their bulletin board about, so if anybody we get too full, they can just come in and take a peek. Have each of the chairs of those committees do a 3-minute talk, short, sweet, attention deficit, you know, just keep that in mind, and explain who they are, what they've done, say a couple of highlights from the past, and some present things and possibly future. Have the council there, so then the council and the mayor can talk about what they do, what their duties are, when they meet, same thing. And then have applications for committees, like if they want to join a future committee. And then have some fun stuff, games and whatever, have some snacks and whatever, you know, to get them here, have QR code possible so that people could just hit the QR code and they could hear about this meeting, this town hall, have a sign out front for a whole month saying when we're gonna have our town halls, and have one at the corner. And this way, I think it'll be easy because every committee can have their little piece of it, the council can have their piece, but if we have the communication board, so then after people get done talking, that they could come around and talk to the chair, co-chair, or whatever committee members that want to be around and just talk a little bit more. And then we could also do a couple of things like what we did, our talking points at First Friday. So if there's a couple of things that we want some input on, that we want some more community engagement, then we can have those boards as well. That's just my thought, and then that way, it's like, hey, we're trying to reach out to y'all, this is what we do, so, but let them have a lot of time to soak it in, get it in the paper also in as many ways as we can possibly can, so that they can be aware of all the committees, council, and then ask questions. Have counselors come as well, and then people sitting around so that they can answer questions that people may have, and to engage with the community. So if that's something we've been talking about for years.
So on the town hall specifically, and you sort of triggered me on the committee applications. So committee application, we usually open that up for the year, April? So if we wanted to shoot for an April-ish town hall, we get it into the next quarterly champion with enough time to schedule it and have plenty of online traffic and have it coincide with our annual volunteering blitz in the spring. That would probably be good timing. So I don't know who would be the best person to try to organize that with. If that's something that we need to involve Erica or probably Marley.
I'll have to ask. I think without knowing fully, I think it would be, we started here, and we do all the planning here in this committee. We plan it, we figure it out, we obviously reach out to the other committees and council members, and planning commission, and I think it's either Marley or maybe Sarah, because more than likely we would do it here in this room, where we do the town hall. So I think really what we would start with is we would say we want to do it, and then I'd figure out who we need to talk to in order to plan that. We could do it here or the Sam Cox building. One of those two would probably be the best. Those are the largest and open meeting areas. Sam Cox may be a better location for it, and that's something where I'm not sure if the sheriff's department uses this. Next thing would be picking a day to do this. It would more than likely be best to do on a Saturday morning, is what I'm assuming. Again, this is discussions that we would have to have. I helped schedule and plan the first annual town hall and second annual town hall for Scappoose. So I was there when we started that, and we did it on a Saturday. We did have businesses throughout the city that donated breakfast. There was a bagel shop that did breakfast. There was a coffee shop. At the time I was also working at Dutch Bros, so we sponsored the coffee. And so they're basically sponsors, they're donating things. One of the local places also donated pancakes. So things of that nature. And it was we figured the Saturday was the best. We did it 10 to 1. That way people can kind of roll through. We did have, it's a little bit smaller, much smaller than the city, so there weren't as many committees. But I do like the idea of talks. We did have a presentation by our director, and then we were there working the event with topics that we had up from planning, the committees, and so that could be a planning commission type thing. Hey, these are things that are going on in planning, or then this committee as well as doing volunteers. So how we started that is we had the idea, we rented a space which happened to be the middle school cafeteria. That was the best location for it. And then Saturday worked the best, just to get most people involved, because evenings, most people have families, dinner, things going on. If we plan ahead, as you're saying, which I think is a great idea, getting the media blast out there, then a Saturday from either like a 9 to noon or a 10 to 1 for 3 hours, where people can kind of drop by whenever they feel, and we can have a couple of discussions. I think that would probably be the best. I think starting it would be figuring out the basics of when, time frame, which building we'd like to use, and then I can bring that to whoever I need to figure out how to get that space, if there's anything we need to do in order to make sure we have that space reserved for that time.
Thoughts? Victoria?
April, we'd have to do it at the beginning of April, at the end of April. Beginning of April, we already have the pancake breakfast and Easter egg hunt down there. Or maybe the beginning, the first weekend of May or something. Just thinking about time frame.
Yeah.
I'm thinking summer's not bad either, just because there's going to be another election as well. So people might be a little bit interested in just learning more about government, how things operate and such. So I'm not thinking it has to be pinned to April. That way we can have enough time to do a meaningful engagement.
And so we just need to know when they're going to close applications.
Yeah, I guess that would be one of the critical dates is when if we wanted to highlight city volunteering and committee volunteering, when that is likely to close, to see if we want to shoot for that. Becky?
Yeah, one of the goals I would love for us to have is to increase getting more people involved in committees, getting, I feel like it's been held up by such a few dedicated people and continuing to re-sign up and switch to committees, right? I think it would be so important for us just to get a diversity of thought and approaches and perspectives, but also to share the load. So I think in town hall, I'm 100% around as well. I think that establishing that and getting awareness out, communication out is so important. And I wonder if there's a way we can couple it with letting people know these opportunities are here and encouraging them to participate. So I don't, do we know? I don't know, someone here must know when the applications for these committees close.
I don't know if we know the specific date.
I just wrote it down to double check with Sarah. I know they open in April. I think they close mid to late May.
Because the interviews are usually mid-May,
End of May, because then the
term starts
selections
in July.
Yeah, June is when we introduce, that's when we get the list
Right.
of new committee members, and terms start in July.
Is there any flexibility in that, or are those dates solidified? Okay.
Yeah, because the term dates of the committees are written into the municipal code.
Correct.
So that's a hard stop, and then all of the preparatory stuff that goes around it.
Yeah, interviews aren't on like a very specific day, it's just kind of when they have the time, make sure it's before I think it's before the second week or the first full week of June, so the interviews are done before then, so that way, that we have an idea of those who may be reapplying know that, hey, your term's ending, or, that we all know that stuff we have kind of a month buffer before the first term starts at the beginning of July.
Shelby?
I also think city council has to approve it. So they have to
Yes,
get that in
yes.
time, so city council
Correct.
has a meeting to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's correct.
there's a sequence of things. Woodrow?
Sorry about that. Couldn't find the unmute button. All right. So a couple points I want to make is being on a committee such as ours generally is not the starting point for volunteerism in a city. Okay? Generally, it's going to be the people we have assisting now in the parks, assisting now at some of our programs and some of the other events. So I think one way to look at this is let's find that population, because one, the barriers to entry of those positions are a lot easier than there are to these positions that we're talking about in the committees. So let's kind of work hand in hand with the people who are getting, volunteers for those events and for those other programs, and look for those people to be part of the committee as well. So that makes sense, because sometimes I think I'm speaking French.
I was thinking that with this, we do a broad stroke of government. Doesn't have to necessarily be tied in with that, because we could have a list of another bulletin board of volunteer opportunities. Also, how does government even work in Troutdale? Do people know we have a city manager, the 101s? Because it can be educational so that you're not afraid to think that it's unobtainable to participate. I don't think the goal should just be, hey, let's get these new people that have never volunteered possibly or whatever. It's kind of like government 101. This is your town. How can you volunteer? How can you participate? How does it even work? What meetings can you go to? Like bingo. Hey, let's go to a planning meeting. You know what I mean? Let's go to a CAC meeting. Let's go to this or whatever. We could have a little game, and then with some government information. So there's some things we could do to just get their little toe wet. So it's not, but in a fun way, an educational way, so it's not daunting to them to then take that step to do the volunteering at whatever capacity. But I really think a board of all the volunteering opportunities they are in Troutdale within a year, some examples, so that they know, what's out there, and also direction again to how do we communicate with you. Then there's another board. It says go to this page, go to Explore Troutdale if you want recreation. Do you want this? Do you want this? So this way they get the full full thing.
Or I'm sort of visualizing the kind of like something akin to that city manager speed dating event that we had when we were hiring Mike. And just having everybody, all the different groups, all the committees, Parks and Rec, and planning and council, and all that sort of just around the Sam Cox building, and having people browse and ask questions and educate and all of that. So, the old school church bazaar. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Diane. I really appreciate that. I think, we can have an overarching goal of pure education, right? Which we need to, because with our side goal of empowerment, right? Getting to plant the seeds. And then I think not being so tied to rushing in April will give us time to thoroughly plan and promote it and advertise it and involve other community businesses and other volunteers. Yeah, that's great.
I did find this is from my materials last year. It says applications are due no later than 5 p.m. on Friday, April 25th. Oh. And that was on
that early, yeah. Okay.
Volunteer opportunities in our community on the website.
We'll verify that sort of timeline is holding for this year. I don't think any of that has been posted yet.
Not yet.
They haven't even started. So yeah, we'll definitely look at that. I encourage people to mull over that and bring ideas, and we can talk about it more next month and try to nail something down. And then take it to the powers that be, both in staff and probably eventually council, and let's make something happen. All these ideas are fantastic, and I think we definitely get some use out of them. Well,
I guess also throw out there a couple things that have been of interest to me in the past as well. And that would be looking at our notification requirement for distances away from a certain property, going through a type 1, 2, 3, 4, see what that kind of looks like, and see whether you feel that's an appropriate distance, if it's too much, too little, whatever. I think we're going to get into the next topic here, which is that there's been a whole bunch of changes coming from a state level down regarding what can happen. And some of those include type 2s, which can be rezoning for higher density, but still only have 100-foot buffer of notification. And maybe we could look at some of those things and just kind of see whether we think that Troutdale's in good compliance, or if we want to extend those, or just kind of get an understanding for myself.
I believe at the end of the binder that we talked about, it has like a list of all of our applications, and it does have our distances for like our noticing requirements, and for conditional use, how that has to not only just be noticed to a distance because it's going to a public hearing, but also has to be published in the newspaper. So I think that lists through just the basics, but you are correct that some of the legislative things, certain changes that we can talk about. But yeah, I think for the basis of our requirements, I believe it's at the end of our, we put it in the binder. So it should have a list of all applications and procedures and things like that.
And the other thing I do know, because I have been reminded on this by multiple people on multiple occasions, that the notice radii that we use for applications is in excess, and sometimes well in excess of state requirements. We go well beyond what the state tells us to.
I guess to then continue upon that thought, and from that to then also like a larger one, like with maybe Main Streets on Halsey sort of thing. There could be some really tall buildings going on. Where at what point do we say, okay, yeah, we have done everything we have that we should to get this information out? There has been enough public involvement in this. How many people in the survey is enough to count it as a good survey? I'm kind of looking at maybe some of those things too, and fine-tuning some of those along the way, if that makes sense. To get us sort of that kind of, okay, this is a big thing. This is not going to only affect people within 100 feet of here, but everybody driving through Troutdale is going to be affected by this. How does that? At what point is the standard of 100 feet not enough, right? And then totally random topic, but it's of interest to me. In all my years here in Troutdale, other than paying a traffic violation, I know nothing about our court system. We have judges, a judge, we held court every day. I don't know anything about that. I don't know if you guys know anything about that, but it's just a topic of interest to me, and it seems to be shoved in this corner that none of us involved in the city has anything to do with. It's just a matter of kind of opening up that door a little bit and peeking into there. What are we doing? What is the city doing with the court? And just knowing more about that. It's a topic of interest to me. Because it's really something that I don't think any of us know anything about.
I think it's on the traffic card.
It depends. So primarily it's traffic court, and I know it's on Wednesdays, but it's not every Wednesday. I can't remember if it's the first or second Wednesday of the month. In the mornings in this room. Primarily it's traffic court. That's 95%. However, there are times where if someone is in code violation, then our code enforcement officer will summons them to court in order to get a legal, either to hold them to paying fines, or that they have been assessed, or to clean something up, or the list goes on and on. So I know our code enforcement officer comes to court quite a bit, dealing with certain instances that typically it's only until it gets to a certain point where he has to then summons them to court because they're not listening to what we're saying. So now we need to have a judge rule. So that does happen every night. There was one project when I started, they built an illegal addition they didn't want to remove it, we had to summons them to court. I had to go with the code enforcement officer, explain the reasoning, and then the judge had a ruling on, next steps. And then sometimes they do some minor criminal court. That's usually at the end, but it's not every time. It's just every time, where they'll come into the back.
This room too, right?
In this room.
Probably at court sometime today.
I think there was court today, so it might be the first.
I was a juror a long time ago, decades ago. And we
This room.
no, down below on the other side, so I don't even know if they still do that. No, that was so much fun.
No, that's.
I got it overturned. He got off because it was clear that because they even had some video. So I go, no, he knew what he was doing. It's at Stark Street and 257. And I go, he knew what he was doing. He turned on his light. It's like, how did he remember his eyes were red from? Anyway, it was very interesting.
I think most court that requires a jury is done at the courthouse, Sussex County. Here is more, again, for assessing traffic violations. I think some of the criminal court, it's not sentencing, it's not anything that's gonna be a judge. I think it's usually setting court dates. But again, I don't know a whole lot. I usually leave before that part comes. So when I've had to come with Joe, I usually leave at that point.
Would it be worthwhile, and this is a question for either, to just have Joe in here to do a little presentation informational presentation on code enforcement? Is that something that people might be interested in?
I think it's, I think that that's very interesting, because code enforcement is something that doesn't happen in the city of Troutdale until a community member has a problem or somebody already gets hurt, and so it's something that, if he comes and he talks during one of our meetings, that's public knowledge and it's knowledge for all of us to inform the community that, if there's a sidewalk that's really high or something dangerous or something that falls under code enforcement, this is that ladder that we're talking about, this is who you would talk to do something about it. And a lot of the times, he doesn't have time to drive around and find all the issues, so it's somebody saying, hey, I have a hard time turning left on Buxton at this street and this street because there's these huge trees, or I can't walk on that sidewalk because it's covered with leaves that aren't getting picked up. Like right up here, going up the hill, all those trees fell off the grove of trees right on the other side of the retaining wall. And I walked up during the winter and it was super slick. And that's a steep hill with busy traffic now. Quite a bit, because the cars are going up and down and they get pushed in. It was dangerous. I didn't say anything about it, but I think that would be really good to have him come in and do a presentation on.
And I will say, just on that note, we are a complaint-driven city.
Yeah.
So that is important that people know that if there is something to contact, typically I think it's through the website. You can lodge a complaint to the website. You can also call. But Joe prefers the website, so we can do some research before going, otherwise most times he'll get the call, he'll take the complaint, then he has to go out and figure out the situation, either talk to the other party or go investigate before he can have an answer. So he always likes the email version, that way he can go do some reconnaissance or figure out a situation and have a response or an outcome to reply on. But we are complaint driven, so as city staff, if I'm driving around and I notice something that's I am not allowed to then go and talk to them. We need to get a complaint. So we are complaint driven, and then we go out to handle situations after that. And if it does, sometimes it requires where a building tech will go with Joe, if it's building related. Sometimes it's planning related, so I'll go with Joe. And sometimes it's not at all, a lot of times it's parking. Most of the time it's parking. Or abandoned vehicles, and then he handles those, or dumping of things, so then Joe handles that on his own.
And then I guess one last thought was, I know in the past we've started lists potentially. Do you by chance have a list of some things that we kept in the past that we could add on to that?
When we started this conversation, I was going, and the last action items that I had on here where it was the public notice requirement, removed that because it was at the back of the thing, just based on basic public notices. We have in here a newsletter. And then we had these are just other things, is group picture, and then I was still trying to find, I know we have a spreadsheet that I can't remember where I put it in the files, so I'll have to, so I know I had a spreadsheet that we made, I want to say this was probably April, February, March, April-ish last year. So I'll have to find, I have the spreadsheet, so I'll have to find that when we talked about things we wanted to accomplish. So I can keep looking for it.
Anybody else? So,
I just have some, super quick. I know we're gonna do another celebration for the Sharon Nesbitt Trail. I don't know if it's possible that if Marley pushes it out a little bit further to summer, that it could be conjunction with a, possibly a town hall, type of thing. So I'm not sure if that would even work. But do you know what I mean, with all bulletin boards, if there was a tent?
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what I mean? Because I know we're talking a little music, or I'm not sure if the two would work together, but just throwing that out there. Something that's already gonna get a lot of recognition and people,
well,
and probably people that are from Troutdale that are interested in what's going on in our area, just a thought.
and that's something we can think of, I mean, when that other celebration is scheduled, even if we don't have it coinciding with a town hall, which I think is regardless going to be valuable. I mean, we can still have, I mean, much like we do with First Fridays and our various other events, try to organize presence so that we're, as a committee, as volunteers, we're visible.
I guess, sorry to jump in front of you, but while we're on that topic, maybe we should also put on there that we just want to pick a month. We're going to do a table at Summerfest, or at First Friday. And we just pick a month and we, put that on our list of things to do.
Certainly. More than one.
Yeah, at least one. I know we tried to do this last summer and we never really.
Yeah, it was, last summer was kind of chaotic for reasons.
I love that idea. I think if we plan ahead and we say, this is what we're gonna do, we start planning forward and having those questions, it would be great. I would love for us to do a goal for our committee to utilize Troutdale City social media more than we have. I think it was a meeting or two ago, maybe it was Diane, but someone was saying like, doing these little, hey, did you know? And doing like a 20-30-second video informing, like people, the example that Dakota Kate gave about we're a complaints-driven city. We can say, did you know? We're a complaints-driven city. This is how you do this. This is how change occurs. Or, hey, or we, communicate, we have this survey, or did you know bulletin boards are now being updated with this information at your local parks. Like if we could utilize that and maybe give us a goal to utilize those platforms 2 or 4 times in this year, it'd be really great.
And that was actually going to be my last comment, I would like to see, just from a sheer engagement standpoint, because I know this is a topic that has come up with my other nonprofit work, is that if you want Facebook algorithms to make your content visible, your content has to be frequent. And if there's anything that can be done to encourage, and I know and I'm blanking on the name, Kevin, has a lot on his plate, but having if anything can be done to increase the frequency of posts to the city Facebook, just so that it bubbles up to the surface a little more often for both the people who actually follow the city of Troutdale, which there are many, but also the people who are ancillary to that and don't necessarily follow the city directly, so that it comes across their feed a little more And if it's something where we as a committee could possibly suggest content, or even if it's just an encouragement to post more things. I'm sure there's a list of things that go in the champion, things that could go on Facebook that we see. So that was going to be my last. Shelby?
My point is just that I think if we can provide, I don't think he has the ability, his plate is already full, I'm sure if we provide it, I'm sure he posts it. Anytime I've asked him to post something and I've provided something, he has got it done. But I think that's it, we can't ask him to make a video or do something.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't think that.
I think if we provide the stuff, then
So,
we can do it, but that means we have to provide the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that might also be a task every month. It's like, what do we want to send over for our monthly, you
That's a
know,
great
social
idea.
media? Just every month, we're like, what's our topic? And then, okay, I'll do it this month, you do it next month, that sort of thing.
and I know that there is ostensibly plenty of content in the pipe already, because I know I'm periodically pestering Molly with Parks and Rec, say, hey, can we get more posts to Facebook on upcoming events, and highlight those, and many times it doesn't actually happen until I start pestering on. So anyway, but I think part of that is just going to be prodding to get more stuff, such as the post earlier today, about 5-6 hours ago, that said what meetings were happening this week.
I know the last thing I did find the spreadsheet, and the other things, we talked about all of them. The other one was the citizen involvement plan having someone go to having the committees or going to the committees and seeing how many people have come, just kind of reviewing them. That was the other thing we talked about as well. The citizen engagement.
Yeah, indeed, all good stuff. And now I think we made Candy wait long enough. So anyway, 4C, reviewing legislative updates from the past year of things important to land use planning and et cetera. Between Dakota and Candy, I'll let you two figure out how.
I'm open to whichever. I can share the document that was shared with the Planning Commission. Yeah. I'll share that though, so
Good evening, Chair Kester and members of the committee. First off, I want to thank you all for your dedication to the city and the work that you do. It's much appreciated. My name is Tanny Stephenson, and I'm a resident of Troutdale, and I also serve as chair of your planning commission. And I want to talk to you tonight about some things that are in your packet and just clarify a couple of things. You've had a number of discussions regarding community involvement, awareness, engagement, communication when it comes to our planning process and the application process and policies that we follow. Planning Commission's having these discussions as well, and we share your concerns. But I'm here this evening to make you aware of a number of changes that are coming regarding that the Planning Commission feels is really going to take away from some of these efforts that we're trying to accomplish as a city. And just to give you a little history, today there's many land use applications with which the Planning Commission hears in a public hearing. These include various development applications, zone changes, comprehensive map plan amendments, variances, and other land use related matters within the city, which each of us call home. There's 4 types of land use applications, and does everybody know that? Okay, so there's 4, right? Type 1 is strictly a staff decision. Type 2 is a staff decision with review and notification. Now the state requires 100 feet, and we do 250 feet. So properties within 250 feet of whatever that application is. Then we have type 3, which is a quasi-judicial hearing before the Planning Commission. State requires 250 feet notice for this. We do 500 feet. We also post signs on the property that say there's a land use application, coming, and this is when you can go testify and what's happening with the property, because we think all of this is extremely important. Then there's type 4, which is a legislative hearing, and that's where it goes before the planning commission. Planning commission makes a recommendation to the city council. And planning commission decisions are made applying state law to the application. It's often very challenging to balance the law, property owners' rights, and desires of those in the community, and try to get the best outcome we can. As we have less developable land, we're seeing quite a bit of infill development and development of some really challenged properties. There really isn't any of these developments that don't impact someone in some way. And of course, no one likes it when the field next to them gets developed, but that's the reality of where we are today. And so the real question is, how do you manage this? How do you do it so it's best for the community? Because you always hear, I had no idea that was happening. And sometimes I don't know how you couldn't have known, and other times I can see how you didn't know. But I will say this, land use laws are changing at a very fast pace, faster than any of us have ever seen. And these mandates and laws are coming into effect, and your planning commission and staff spend countless hours discussing these changes and work to implement them in the most effective way possible for our community. Believe me, we do. Big one is, you've all heard about House Bill 2001. That was a very significant change, because it basically did away with single-family zoning as we know it, or as what it was when a lot of us bought our homes. Okay, and depending on where you sit, our land use laws are either brilliant, stupid, or somewhere in between. But make no mistake, good or bad, our land use laws are some of the most progressive in the entire country. And this latest set that's coming down, right? Some of these changes, and I'll just highlight a few of them. Currently, staff has the authority to grant up to a 15% variance to development standards. And then after that, it becomes a type 3. Planning commission, hearing, with notice, people can come in and say, I don't like this, and this is why, and then we try to figure something out. Okay, that is one thing, along with many, that is going to go away. Those are going to become staff decisions. Planned unit developments, we've talked a lot about those. Those are type 3. Planning commission, public hearing. Those are going to a type 2. And, then there's other things like we're creating a lot out of 1,500 feet now. And the ability to replace a single-family neighborhood home with 4 dwellings without a hearing. This is all kind of the reality that we're facing. And doing away with covenants regarding or limiting middle housing or manufactured housing. Some places we don't allow manufactured home. That's going to go away. And I won't even get into some of the things like parking, which is a real sensitive issue here. It's just like, and I'm not picking on anything, but by today's standards, that development could go in with virtually no parking. And those are some of the things that we're faced with. And, I've been on the planning commission for over 20 years, and there's other members that have been on there longer than myself. And the part that I enjoy the most is having all the stakeholders in a room and finding a creative way, if possible, sometimes not, to help make a development better for not only those that live next to it, but for the community as a whole. And I think that's a lot of good work, and I always think it's a positive thing when people get their voice heard. And so, you hear that, yes, this is red tape and it takes time and money. Yes, it does. But if you're going to develop a significant project, a lot of times the community comes in and says, hey, what if you did this? Sometimes we can do that, sometimes we can't, and sometimes it's things nobody even thought of. and it can make a development better. And it really appears that these laws are going to diminish a lot of that. A lot of applications that are seen publicly are not going to be seen publicly anymore. Would that be an accurate statement? Pretty close.
Pretty close.
And there's always ways we can improve our code, engagement policies, and we do it all the time. But you know, when I look at this, I don't think there's any way we can or should feel that these new policies are going to be better for our community from a standpoint of engagement and involvement. It seems as though we've lost some things. In some ways, the comprehensive plan, our zoning, development code, and most importantly, goal 1. You know, together, with all of us working to find a solution, I think we'll find the best way for Troutdale to adjust to the regional government that's happening. At the end of the day, it's not about really what any of us think, but it's about what our community thinks. And they want to hold us accountable for things, and it's difficult when we can't do that the way that we feel that we need to. So I just want to say we're all for public process, and this is really, I don't mean to come in here and drop an egg on everything, but it's really going to be difficult for us to do a lot of that work when things won't be seen by the public the way that they have been.
Do you have any thoughts on actionable ideas? Anything like we can do, loopholes that we can come up with? Is that 100 feet a minimum? So now like our 250 is out the window because the state said it's only 100? Or like how does that work? Can we have 1,000? You know,
there are some things where, like an example, I'll give you another example, is like you have a type 2 application come in. And staff's like, whoa, this is a big apartment complex on Halsey. We're going to move this up to a type 3 because a lot of people are going to comment on this. They're going to want to know about it. So it's called a bump up. Well, there's a lot of things now that are not going to have the ability to be bumped up. Even though staff may say, well, this is kind of a thing where people are going to want to know, we won't have the ability to move it to a higher level of review. So you've got some of those things, but I will tell you, and Dakota will vouch for this, and I think Adrian will too, we go through this stuff word by word. And it's like, well, it says this, but it doesn't say this, so this would give us the opportunity to do X. And I will say that I think your planning commission and your staff push back on these things as much as they possibly can. And typically at the end of the day, we get told, all right, enough. You know, and you can't do anything else, but we do everything that we can. And if we can do a wider radius, I think we should. I think it's important.
Would there be a way to have a city internal bump up where we can say, okay, this now goes to say like CAC for additional, you know, we're not allowed to bump it up to type 3, but we can let CAC know that they need to get on the horn and we can let everybody know about this project, or it doesn't matter.
No.
Even if everybody came in and said, we don't want this, the state's still like, too bad.
The reason being is all of these House bills, Senate bills, the goal, obviously they're coming from above, right? And so we're being told to make these changes, and it's not like, hey, this would be nice if you make the change. Hey, this is what you're gonna do now. And the reason for it is at the state level, they want to, A, increase housing, because there's obviously a housing shortage in basically everywhere on coastal regions. So, you know, all on the West Coast, all on the East Coast, there's housing shortages, specifically the West Coast. So they want to increase housing, so that's with infill, that's with, you know, more planned unit developments, anything to increase the number of potential living units. So that's number one. Number two, they're trying to cut down any quote-unquote potential barrier to development. So they're looking at some things, for example, as Tanya had mentioned, planned unit developments. These are large, like you think of a subdivision, there's subdivisions, then there's planned unit developments that are even larger. They're more in-depth. Those are always traditionally type 3s.
Well, if I could, one example of a planned unit development is Morgan Meadows.
Yeah.
Okay, so think about Morgan Meadows going in with no community involvement, really no notification practically, and no traffic study, on down the line.
And the reason why they do that is because they want to get these houses built as fast as possible. Because typically a type 3, and whenever I talk to anybody on the phone or want to do a type 3, I always say anywhere from 3 to 4 months. For 2 reasons. One, they're happier if they get it in quicker. But 2, it can take that long. It could take longer too if they extend their 120-day complete notice, because sometimes we'll get the planning commission, and through discussion with planning commission, they'd like to see changes. And the developer will work with planning commission, but they'll have to go back and make some changes, so then we have to extend that timeline. I've worked on a project for a planned unit development before that took, it was approved, so it has to be done in 120 days. Well, that took almost 2 years because they kept extending, trying to work through a lot of these environmental constraints that they had. They ultimately ended up withdrawing the application because they weren't able to make it work, but they tried working with planning commission to get it there. A lot of these also require, parking requirements, how a lot of these planned developments are new entire areas, so you need to have, how are the roads laid out? Is that the most effective way? Fire has to come into that. So now we're just shortening that, the state is shortening that timeline because they can be long drawn out projects for the purpose of being more efficient. But the state thinks that that's a barrier, so we're removing that type 3 requirement in order to get them done quicker. And that's something that I don't personally agree with. A lot of other jurisdictions don't agree with. And to one of your questions, like the one about the 100 feet, I'm not sure. And when I asked the LCD, they're not sure because that hasn't been written yet. That determination hasn't come down. So we get these requirements from the state, but we don't have all the rules for them yet. We just have the resolutions that are done at the state level. So we have a lot of questions. I sit in the meetings along with the other staff members, and we ask questions, and a lot of other jurisdictions ask the same types of questions, and a lot of it's, we'll get you the rules. Once you get the rules, then that's what you have to follow. So it's kind of, we're still learning as we go as well as staff.
So here's a question, a process question that I have, is if a member of the general public is aware of an application that is a type 2, is there any benefit, any mechanism for, within the type 2 timeframes for a member of the public to offer comment and input?
Yes. So for type 2, it's 14 days. I was getting confused with the appeal deadline. 14-day comment period. So, and just because you might not get the notice, say you're outside of that 250-foot radius, just because you know about it doesn't stop you from commenting. Public comment's public comment. Anybody can submit. And then once it's submitted, it's up to staff when we're writing the decision or the staff report, we have to respond to the public comment. The issue that we get a lot of the time, and this is also something that a lot of the public doesn't know, and so it's best that they get away, that they're informed, is when staff is responding, we can only respond based on criteria in the code. So if we get a comment that, hey, this new development is gonna look ugly, it's gonna cause potential like noise, and it might affect the house, the property value of my home. I can only respond based on what's in the code. I can't respond on, it might look, it's going to be houses rather than a beautiful field. That's not a code. That's not a code requirement. I can't respond to that. I'll respond with why it meets code or why it doesn't. If there's a good point to where, hey, this is going to cause X number of traffic and it's a fire hazard, well, then that's something that we can go based on code. And, wow, you're right, it's not going to meet therefore we have to recommend denial. Or, yep, it meets it based on here, here, and here, and here, so therefore it's still approvable. But we don't get, it needs to be, the comments need to be based on code. And that's something that is sometimes a little bit hard, because we do get comments, and it's like, I know you're not gonna like this response, but here's the response based on what it says in our code.
So I've sort of two follow-up questions to that. One is there anything that we can do either through the website or possibly less likely social media to increase the visibility earlier, as soon as possible, for these type 2 applications, so that there's a greater likelihood of visibility and opportunity for public comment within that short window?
We always post them to the website. So all of our projects, after they're deemed complete, and we have to wait till they're deemed complete, and that's when we send out the notice, that starts that 2-week review period. Once that notice goes out, the notice of application, or public notice, depending on how you want to call it, that starts that 2-week review period, and that gets posted online and is open for comment. Other than that, I mean, because that was something that we weren't doing when I started, and that was something that myself and the other planner were like, this needs to be posted online. And it's not a requirement, not a state requirement, but we posted it because it needs to be visible to the public. As far as doing more, other than sending out the notice and posting it online, and for those that need to be posted in the newspaper, I don't know if there's a whole lot of other avenues for us to do.
One suggestion that I would have would be if Kevin could periodically post to the city Facebook the link where active applications exist. Not necessarily Facebook notices of specific applications, because those can be hard to read and sometimes look kind of esoteric. But simply just, hey, did you know, if you want to see what land use changes are going on in the city, this is where you go look, and have that kind of notice go out with some regularity, that might be helpful. The other question that I have, and this is more for this body and this committee, is would there be any way to generate, because I know we don't get a lot of them, but would there be a way to generate a report as to how much, for applications in general, we get public comment? And how, and to what extent and what those responses are. And like, how many of them are specifically code related, or how many of them are like, that development is going to be ugly as all heck and I don't like it? Because while you are limited to responding within the context of the code, we are potentially freer to ask follow-up questions. It's like on things like, what are your feelings? Can we do anything? Can we talk about it? Can we explain more as to why this is the way it is? See where I'm going with that?
I do see where you're going. I mean, we could pull together we don't have a way to easily pull together like a report. I mean, that's just going through each one that we've received and seeing if there's any comments saved in the file type thing. I can confidently say in the 2.5 years that I've been with the city, I've received 3 total public comments on about
Type 2s.
Type 2s. Yeah, type 2s public comment. Because then with type 3s, then I mean obviously they're
That's
here.
hundreds.
That's a lot more because people come in there, and I feel like that's where in type 3s, when it's a public hearing, that's when there's more, I guess you would say discussion, because someone can voice what they say, they don't like it because it's ugly, whatever, and then, planning commission can respond, and there can be a dialogue. when we receive public comment for type 2s, there's not much of a dialogue. It's like we would let them know we received it, we'll send them the decision, they'll have our response to it. Because it's our requirement that if we receive public comment at all, we have to send them the decision as well. So they get the notice of decision at that time. But really for type 2s, there really isn't a way because, and the reason for that is they're supposed to be quicker. Most cities, not Troutdale, most cities, a type 2 from date of deemed complete to the date of notice of decision is 120 days. It's the length of that whole 120 days. Troutdale is 45 days. So we shortened it, I don't know when, but before I was here. So it's a much quicker process for type 2s. And put that in perspective, a type 1, which are, a lot line adjustment, a final plat, really simple type applications, that's 30 days. So it's only 15 more days, AKA basically the comment period, to get the decision out for a type 2. Where typically there's more time built in. And we just don't have that within our standards since it's 45 days. Which does make a lot of developers like doing business with us because they get their decision quickly. But it is a much quicker time frame.
Well,
Yeah, so, sorry, you want to go ahead? Go for it.
How's this gonna affect town center? Because we sort of had design standards that we wanted to keep it, the seal of Troutdale and things. Now they're prohibited from having any design standards. So are they just allowed to come in now and whatever?
This is something I need to do more research on. I was just reading through the resolution or the House bill today. Because I was reading through this and I know that Planning Commission saw this document last month, and I haven't reviewed it in full yet. So actually after talking with Will, I was back with the other planner reviewing it. Erica, our director, knows about this, but we haven't even had enough time with the holidays coming up, or that we just had, to talk a lot about it internally. So I need to read through, I read through the resolution, but I need to read through and see if there's specific rules set yet. If LCDC has created rules, because how it's written is that we don't, but I'm not sure if you know anything more than
Well,
that.
so are you referring to the confluence?
No, just town center, we have.
The town center in general or the confluence?
The town center, well, the area down there.
The URA?
Town center plan, yeah.
the whole town center overlay is what you're thinking.
The town center overlay or the URA?
You are, yeah.
Well, for the URA, the city owns the property, so the city could conceivably do whatever it wants. It could say, okay, you're gonna build this, but you're gonna do it this way, and this is how it's gonna happen. They're in actually a very good controlling place if they choose to enact the power that they have.
But as far as the town center, for example, our downtown, we have specific design standards based on materials, paint colors, things of that nature. I'm not sure how that will be affected. Reading through it, it sounds like they don't have to follow it unless they're building it. Hold on, let me go double check. I think it's only for, it's for residential development, does not involve commercial. And I want to say it was for, it's for everything smaller than a 20 unit. Oh, I'm getting there, sorry.
20 or more.
Yeah, 20
It's
or
20 or
more
more.
is fair game.
So it's pretty much limited to high density residential, which nothing in the town center overlay, I don't think, because that's all in the mixed use.
Well, it's mixed use and some of it's high density.
Mixed use and multifamily can go in the town center overlay. It just depends on, it's based on lot size. So basically how this is written is that local governments may not apply residential design standards to housing developments of 20 or more. So anything under that, we have the control to still apply, and commercials falls in that, so we can do that. But if someone's coming in for a 22 unit mixed use or just multifamily residential development, we cannot put on any sort of design.
But right now in the URA,
URA is, we will do what we
URA's,
want to do.
yeah, URA is a little different animal, but you also look at like these things where someone can upzone their property without this going to a public hearing, and that is a really big deal, because when you upzone it, you're increasing density, you're cutting back setbacks, so you're getting closer to your neighbors, it's just like, I mean, to rezone property used to be a major issue, now it's just like,
It's a long process.
stamp it and
Type
go.
process.
Yeah.
Okay, so, looking at this through the lens of citizen involvement, and,
We're sorry.
what's no, I think we need to, see that the goal lines and the goalposts have been moved, and we need to move our standards, yeah, I'd like to put this on the list for us to discuss and consider, but maybe there's something like as soon as an application comes in, if that's public record, it gets posted. Like, forget the 45 days, like, it's just immediately, it goes up. Maybe we change that from 45 to the max, 120, and if you're, play ball, we'll cut it shorter. Like, there's ways for us to be able to maneuver and change our status quo to fit the new things coming, even though we might not like them. From at least the citizen involvement perspective, we can be like, oh, this would have been a type 3. This is an, quote, internal bump up, and the CAC or whoever needs to get on the citizen involvement on this a little earlier. So we can potentially, get that information out instead of being like, well, we're stuck with this. Like, what can we do to help improve this process? Because we're all getting blindsided by it. I'm sure the average person isn't going to know about it until the ground starts breaking. They realize there's 20 apartments going in right 5 foot from their back door. So what can we do? Go ahead.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think that the suggestion that was made earlier around utilizing our, multiple ways of communication, social media, bulletin, using the newsletter. Website's great, but how do we direct people to that dense information in that website, and I think it would be really important to do that, make sure that people know when this is happening and when that time frame starts, that time counting. And I think it would be really, really powerful if we educate people on just what you said, Dakota, that complaints need to be rooted in code. And so that how do we do that? I think using our town hall to just inform people of that, would we want to somehow plan a workshop where we teach people how to connect code? Or, we use a social media announcement to say, hey, here's where the codes are located on our website. Do you know that it has to be connected to code? Go to the codes here. We can utilize this from our platform to inform people, empower people, and encourage greater engagement within the rules that are being changed now.
Do you have trouble sleeping? Here's your trouble into
That's a good point.
I'm looking that the effective date is July 1st, 2026. And then I'm wondering who is not pushing back because our planners are not able to plan and the city to decide what is best for their city. So AI says, yes, Oregon cities are actively pushing back and seeking changes to recent state law use, particularly around housing mandates, as they feel new state laws like HB 2001, 2258, 974, and SB 1537 override local control, threatening community character and create, am I reading this?
No, this is just something that I'll talk about in just a second.
Threatening community character and create implementation hurdles, leading some to challenge them through local ballot measures or request state work groups for adjustments. The tension between the state's goal to increase housing supply by easing regulations and local desires to maintain distinct community identities and control growth. So, because I was thinking, hey, people must be pushing back because this is not fun anymore. It's like, why do we even need planners at one point? If the state's going to continue to create all these new codes and legislation, it's like, why are we here?
And on that note is what I just handed out is an example from Sherwood, based on the rezoning. So they're pushing for a vote coming up to decide whether to challenge the new state planning for housing developments. This is just an example. This just it's funny because we were talking about it today, and this Chris Ann actually found this from the OPB website and sent it to us planners, and it just seemed to be topical. So it's kind of interesting. They're more based on the ballot measure 34-347. But it's just, this is an example of a way to try to, get the voters involved. Now, this is something that's a little bit more specific. They just annexed a ton of property into the UGB. And so now with these new standards, they now have that they don't really have the control to do the zoning, which doesn't meet their comprehensive plan. And in order to get the UGB expansion, took years for them to do this, with a lot of work for Sherwood. And Erica can talk even more about this because she was part of this when she was that's where she came from, Sherwood. She was a planning manager there before, so she did a lot of work on this. And so now she was out today, but I'm curious to see what she says about this article, because it just seems kind of interesting given that the work that she did is now kind of being semi-unraveled in a sense. They got the property in to now have this comprehensive plan to develop it in a way that'll be great for the city, and they're kind of being handcuffed a little bit by state regulation. With that said, some of these, yes, we can push back, and that's why a lot of cities, for example, with the CFAC, with middle housing, a lot of cities have joined together in lawsuits. And as Sandy mentioned,
There was 13 cities that joined a lawsuit. Troutdale was one of them, representing well over 250,000 residents. And the sad thing is, the Oregon Supreme Court would not even hear the case. They refused to hear the case. And that's tough. Because you're kind of telling, in my opinion, you're telling 250,000 people that they really don't matter. But I will tell you, these decisions are being made away from here. And some of the people making the decisions, because I've talked to them, don't even know what's in these bills. I'm like, well, you voted for this. Is that in there? I didn't know that was in there. Well, how do you vote for something? This is just a rant here. How do you vote for something if you don't know what's in it? And how it's going to affect the people that everyone represents?
And there are certain things that we do still have control over. For example, with the middle housing regulation, I gave a presentation to Planning Commission a couple months ago. While we do have to, this is something we have to have implemented into our code. That's something we'll be working on with Planning Commission staff. Will be to get this as a code amendment that has to be updated. But there is still things that we as a city get to decide of whether or not we do or do not want when it comes to Planning Commission. It comes to middle housing, and that's discussions that will be work sessions and try to figure out how we want to write this. So that we do have some, but it is kind of like, hey, you have to do this. And for example, in this middle housing, it shows that it's into effect on January 1, 2027. So we have time to implement some of these. But LCPC has to adopt housing rules by 2028. So we won't have the rules for a year after we have to have it implemented into our code. Doesn't really seem fair.
But we'll be using a model code.
We'll be using a model code that they're currently working on. They should have it finished within the next couple of months, so that way cities can take a look at the model code and either use the exact model code and implement that, or can use it to model how we want to write our code. And that's because they'll have a better understanding. The rules just won't be out yet. I've sat in many meetings with DLCD about this and asking questions that, as Sandy said, they don't know yet. They're still trying to read through the density of the House bills. So a lot of this is, hey, everybody do it, but then figure it out, and then we're all going to figure it out together as we go. That's a frustration. I think this is my first time as a planner that there's been so much legislation over the last 5 years coming down to where we're constantly doing code amendments. And you'll also notice with some of these in the packet, not all of them stay forever. Some sunset. So for example, where it talks about the design standards, that sunsets in January of 2033. So that means that goes away in 2030.
While I agree with that and I appreciate it, it's kind of more like an eclipse than a sunset. A lot's gonna happen between 2026 and 2033.
Yeah.
So I just personally don't look at them as sunsetting, I look at it as, how do we deal with that now?
And that's really what we, as staff, are, and along with Planning Commission, and we're trying to notify the citizens of these changes, because if you look through this is a lot of code amendments that we need to make changes to our code. But also at the same time, we as staff notice that there's a lot of changes we already need to make to our code that haven't been done because it's kind of been left in the wayside at certain points throughout its development. So there's a lot of work to be done. Some simple, some will take a lot more time, and a lot of planning commission work sessions and discussion and notifying CAC and things like that along the way. So there's quite a bit of work.
We're gonna be busy.
Yes.
Does this incentivize people to knock things down, and then because then that land per se is going to be worth more value because of the what you can put on it? So like a lot of conversions, if this isn't fought or pushed back against, that a lot of the landscape could change?
I think that's really dependent on developers. And like, for example, if you own a home, yeah, you could now technically through middle housing, you can knock your home down or do an addition to it and make it a quadplex.
Tomorrow.
Do you want to do that? That's up to you. Some people are like, no, I don't want to have I don't want to build a quadplex on my property. I want to have my single-family residential home. Other people, if there's a dilapidated, small, say 1,000 square foot home on a decent-sized lot, the developer's going to want to buy that up and they'll put it in a quadplex because they're going to make a larger return on the sale. I think the biggest issue when it comes to some of these isn't so much about the infill in housing, it's the typology of infill of housing and not allowing the city staff and city committees to have the say in where that goes, so then we have an influx of a specific type of housing without any diversity. And I think that's really the biggest, like as staff, that's a big issue, because there's going to be infill that happens, that we know that's been going on now for the last 5 years, infill, but now it's kind of becoming less, I would say 2021 while had a lot of it, or 2001 while had a lot of its flaws, at least it allowed for some planning to be done on where they can go and how it can be done and certain requirements. The more and more of these changes to those bills that come out is handcuffing staff a little bit. So we can't plan to have a diverse location and diverse housing typographies within the city.
But infill does affect livability, it affects parking, it affects the whole town.
Well, the point is I feel like the base roots, and no one said this, just me from my background and understanding, they're trying to create 20-minute neighborhoods. That's the thing that everybody learned, like you learn when you go to like basic undergrad planning school, is a 20-minute neighborhood. You want to be able to walk, work, grocery shop, everywhere within your neighborhood. That's what the state is trying to do with the state of Oregon, without realizing that it doesn't work as a blanket model. That works in larger cities like Portland, Eugene, Salem, Bend even. It doesn't work in the small rural communities. So in California, that works great. You have mega cities you can walk and work within the same 20-minute or commute by bike. You don't need a vehicle all the time, public transit. But out here, where we have more rural communities in Oregon, especially Troutdale, as they're slowly removing more and more transit from East County, and that we're removing our parking ability, it's the discussions we have as planners, and now this is me just ranting, is when I would love to see the state just wait a while. Do one of these, wait a while. See if it works. See if it actually, if we can come to a real, like, oh, here's some data on how it worked. The issue is that they're not. They're coming out with these new bills every year, every half year, to where it's so much coming in, we don't know if that first one's actually working, or if it's hindering, and now they're doing a bunch of Band-Aids to try to fill the holes that in how it was written. And that's the issue that I would say planning is in the state right now.
Here's my last point. I know a long time ago, I read the 2030 plan that Jeff Kogan, who was a commissioner, and also, I can't remember who is the mayor, he got kind of. Sam Adams signed. I read it and it had all these goals on it. I'm just saying that I would love it if the planners can have flexibility so we can figure out the livability of our own towns. So one thing doesn't fit all, and I'm hoping that the city pushes back. Just saying.
One last grant, and I'll be done because we're getting late.
Okay.
Continuing on that note, it seems like this is all a massive erosion, if not a violation of Goal 1. And maybe the next lawsuit for the 13 cities should be about citizen involvement and how they've stripped that away from the cities, and consider that as the legal basis.
We did use legal basis for Goal 1 the last time around,
Still,
and the Supreme Court said, we don't want to talk about it.
They let me know what they want, no matter what.
But that, I think we don't give up very easy, and this won't be any different. We're gonna all do the best we can for the city, and I think that's what's important, and I think that's what drives each and every one of us. This is frustrating, because I feel like I'm in like some Nabisco cookie factory here, and what works in Portland doesn't work in Troutdale, and certainly doesn't work in, Medford or some other place, and to think that all these things are just gonna work everywhere is flawed thinking. You don't have the infrastructure to support it.
Chris?
I guess I just have too many questions, and I'll try to keep it quick. I guess one thing I'm wondering is, like, where can we find more information about these laws they're trying to implement? The reason that I'm asking is because I noticed there are some bills that are mentioned both in this article and in the spiel you guys gave that are not listed in here.
So some of the spiel we gave are some bills that are older, from the last 5-6 years ago, depending. So that's like House Bill 2021 or 2001, 2002. Now that's been amended with House Bill 2138. So that one, I think is in here. 2138, we're talking about middle housing. So that's why there's a lot of House bills over the years, and they just all kind of compound. But on the DLCD website is a space where you can find all the current legislative, after the last legislative session, all the bills, Senate bills, House bills that have been signed. They have them all on their website. It's a long list. Some pertain to planning, not all of them do. Some pertain to building. So it's just kind of going through. These are the ones on this list are the ones that happened within the last year, through this last legislative session, that pertains strictly to planning.
The other question I had, just because I'm curious, is you were talking about the thing where they're like expecting the cities to implement some things before the rules are out, and I think you kind of answered this in what you said, but I just wanted to clarify, like, how are you supposed to implement something when you don't know how it works? I feel like that's not a whole lot different than, like, say, giving somebody a new game and telling them to play it, but there's no rule book in there.
You're asking the same question we all ask. I was in a meeting with DLCD with 20 other jurisdictions asking the exact same question. And we don't know, we'll let you know when we know. So that's kind of how everybody's operating right now. It's not just Troutdale. Every jurisdiction is now looking at these, trying to figure out how do we go about doing it. So we're not alone in this, and we're not alone in our frustrations. Like I said, I hear it from all the other jurisdictions when I sit in meetings, because there's just a lot of questions with not a lot of answers. And I think it's supposed to be for LCDC and DLCD to come up with these rules. They're supposed to look at these bills, come up with things, read them, make fact sheets to make it easier for people like myself and other planners and other directors to explain to the public. So we go to them with questions, and they're still trying to read through it and figure it out as well. So they're coming out so quick, they don't have the time to actually do it the right way, because it's just moving super fast at the state level.
Actually, it just feels very backwards.
So, yeah, and I want to highlight something, because then I am cognizant of time here, but actually, Shelby, go ahead.
I just one thing, does this mean the Main Streets on Halsey project is kind of?
No, so that's still moving forward, we're still moving forward with that.
These won't affect that?
It may affect, it all depends on development. Regardless, is the goal with the Main Streets on Halsey is that we can have these standards, so when this eventually sunsets, that those would then apply for anything over. And we can always, as a city staff, we strongly recommend and, kind of explain that, hey, this is what's more approvable than this, so we can always work with them. Now, we do get pushback every now and then, but most of the time developers do at least listen. They don't always do it, but at least they hear us. So it will affect the project that we're working on, which is, perfect timing. I've been working on that for a year, so that's great. But we're about to, we're getting close to wrapping that up in the next couple of months. So yeah, this will affect, and that's something I need to speak with Erica about on how this, I don't know exactly how, anything over 20, units in the whole plan with this is to be able to provide, vertical mixed use and with potential for, with maybe incentives for increased height, if that's a thing, to add more units, well, then they can do whatever they want, and we have to have a way to control this. So that's obviously discussions I need to have with Erica, because not sure. But yes, it will have an effect on it in some way, shape, or form.
Feels like we waste too much time. We get busy doing stuff.
Because this came out when we were already in the middle of this, and I had no idea this was coming down the pipeline at the last legislative session. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten the grant to do the work. So otherwise, it's just maybe we have to hold on to it and try it again when it sunsets, but who knows best. So that's why I have to have these discussions and figure out what our next path forward is as staff, because now that we're wrenching things.
Yeah, so finally, I do want to reiterate something that Candy said, is that the planning commission and city staff do a wonderful job of finding every loophole and every workaround that they can to get the best out of the hand that we're dealt. So, bravo to historical planning commissions and current and staff and all around on making that happen as best we can. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come and speak to you tonight.
Thank
you.
So with that, let's go into staff communications.
All right. So the two big things on the forefront of my mind is, I guess a couple. We did receive 2 conditional use applications in the last 2 weeks. So we're working with them right now to go through the completeness review. Those will be going to planning commission in the next month or 2, depending. One is for where the Move Fitness was. So where they're proposing to go, the old Safeway up there on Trade Park. And that would be a new Crunch Fitness has submitted a conditional use application to come into that site. So I'm currently working with them to submit some better site plans for me, so then we can move forward with that. So it's gym use. It was before we changed our code a little bit, so Move didn't have to go through this process. Now we're requiring them to do so. But it should be an approvable use. I don't see an issue that'll hold it up too much. There's plenty of space. It's already built out to be a gym, so they've been looking for a new gym to come in and take over the space. The other conditional use is for a childcare facility down in the outlet mall. Don't know a whole lot about that one. That one's going to be the other planner, Nick's. That's going to be Nick's project. So he's been looking into that. Other than that, as far as applications go, we haven't received any other applications at this time. We have a couple that may be coming in, but we're not sure yet. Some remodel or some modifications to cell towers, things of that nature. Other than that, I've had a meeting with MIG yesterday for the Main on Halsey project. Went over some draft code amendment, the draft code amendment that they put together. We're planning, I would love to bring it back here at our next meeting, just to go over it real quick with you before we bring it for our work session with Planning Commission. Next, it'll be coming to Planning Commission on February 11th to do a full work session, and hopefully that'll be our final work session before we can move forward with the process, but we'll see, depends on what feedback we receive and how many edits we need to make to it. But ideally, that would be the next step, would be to have that final work session, take the feedback, and then be able to come back to Planning Commission with a recommendation. But again, we'll see how that work session goes. But that will be February 11th. We'd love for anybody to come join and listen, and if you have any comments, concerns, it's a work session, so be there to voice them. We really appreciate that. Trying to think of other big projects that are currently in the works. Those are the big ones that have been on the forefront of my mind. I'm just gonna check. I think we had another decision go out this week, so I'm just checking that really quickly, and that would be the last one. Let's see here. We had, oh yeah, the Beaver Creek pedestrian bridge. The decision went out this week. So we can get that now moving forward to have that, I think we're hoping for this summer to be constructed. So those are the big ones on the forefront.
Any quick questions for staff on any of those?
Real quick, what is the modification to the cell tower? Is it the one at the URA area?
No, this is the one off of Stark, by it's in where the storage unit is. It's kind of tucked in the back there. The modification is they're up. We've had a lot of, almost every cell tower in the city's come in now for changes. They're getting rid of the old antennas. They have updated, newer, smaller. So then they're coming in with updated. They're removing a lot of antennas and just replacing with less and less number of. But this one does require, they're going to be putting in another cabinet on the ground. So it's a modification to what was approved because it was under conditional use.
I was picking through the website because when Chris Ann sends us out, it says to check the active projects and current land use application, and I came across a web page on our site. It's Downtown Development Progress in Troutdale, Oregon, and I can give you this because I printed it off. But the news release date on it is 3/2/22, and it just talks about stuff that has all happened. And it would be really cool if that got updated because a lot of this is different from what's happening down there now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to bring that to you guys' attention because maybe take it down or update it. Because a lot of it has changed. I mean, we have a park, and that's just talking about it being projected. Things have come and gone and changed, and there's tons of stuff that's changing down there that's really exciting. That would be cool to hear about. There's a map attached to it, and it's very old.
Like I said,
could give this to you.
Yeah, I would love it. I don't think I know something like when I started, and Nick started on the same day, we were like, we need to update a lot of things on our website, things haven't been touched in a long time. Mm-hmm. And then when Erica came in, I think for like the first 4 or 5 months, she was like, she was just working on removing things, updating things, getting things on there. We didn't have an active projects list. We were adding projects to our land use applications, but we didn't have an active project. So she was doing a lot of work. I don't even think she's
I
noticed that.
will say
so that's
that
a good
I
point.
found it and then I went somewhere else and then I couldn't find it. And I was like, where the heck is that? Where did it go? So it took me a while to get back to it. It is still on there though.
It's still on there,
Under
yeah.
economic development.
So yeah, there's some rabbit holes. I would love to take a look at that. And yeah, because that's something that we could update. Very good.
Alrighty, so let's go into committee member comments. We'll start online. Woodrow, anything before we go?
No questions. Great meeting.
Thank you. Twyla?
Nothing. Happy New Year, everybody. Good to see you all.
Kevin?
Yes, I also want to wish everyone a happy new year. And I want to say that kind of seemed like same old for the first half of the meeting. And then I want to thank Tanny very much because things got interesting when you made your presentation. And I think we had a good steak to chew on with your presentation. So thank you, and thank you everyone, and especially staff.
All right, go around the room. Will?
I'll just ask our guest if he'd like us to advocate at City Council Forum. No, great meeting you guys. Happy New Year. Thank you very much, Dakota. I appreciate you, and see you guys next month.
Thanks, Tanny, and you're here to. Happy New Year.
Chris?
Well, happy New Year, everyone. I guess I'll just say I'm looking forward to what's to come this year. It sounds like there's some exciting things coming.
Okay.
Yeah, saying happy new year to everybody, and I'm very excited for our brainstorming session for us to actualize and implement our ideas that exist.
Just thanks to staff for all you guys are doing. I participated and volunteered to decorate for the Woody Wonderland, so I got to meet a lot of faces that I've seen and maybe didn't know names of, and that was really fun getting to know people and get more involved in the community for that. So they did a great job with it, and it was a great time, and I really look forward to doing more stuff like that in the community.
Shelby?
So thank you, Dakota, and great meeting. I just feel like we really got some cool stuff to chew on. So thank you, everybody, for your input. Happy New Year.
Okay.
Just like to really thank Dakota and Tanny and for you guys caring about our community, being involved, getting educated, comprehending the information, and really trying to come out with the best outcome for our city. It's exciting. I love that you guys are in our city and that you care so much and are so talented. So I very much appreciate that. And Happy New Year, and great meeting, and I look forward to this year. Thank you.
All right, yeah, ditto to all of that. Thank you, Tanny, for coming. Thank you to staff. Excellent meeting, everybody. The last thing I wanted to mention, this Saturday, right next door, is the January game day, so feel free to come, bring family, bring friends, come play games. So, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion that we adjourn. Shelby second.
Hang on a second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey.
All right, good night.